So let's fire up Bluebeam review. The first time you see Bluebeam, it might do something like this. We'll just say, okay, I accept. It's going to ask you to sign in. And then we can skip that. It should look something like this. Everybody able to open Bluebeam and sign in? So Bluebeam is it's a tool that's used mostly by construction people to look at PDFs, right? It used to be that when people, that is design teams, put together construction drawings, right? So the blueprints you guys are carrying around, why are they called blueprints, first of all?
Used to be on paper.
Used to be what?
On blue paper.
On blue paper, right? We used to have carbon copies and blue paper, a thick pen that would draw on it. So that way, when you drew it, it made multiple copies, right? So that's how you used to create drawings. They're still called blueprints, but obviously we don't print them on blue paper anymore. The term that we like to use for it when we talk about it is a term called as construction drawings, right? Construction drawings. So the architect and the design team together will put together that package of construction drawings, which includes architectural drawings, structural drawings, mechanical drawings, plumbing drawings, electrical drawings, fire safety, sometimes, not all the time, but fire safety sometimes. And then civil drawings, if there's any landscaping, the landscape drawings, fire safety, as in not fire safety, I guess I should say life safety drawings, as in evacuation plans and that sort of thing, right? Depending on type of building and the purpose of the building and what have you. These drawings are put together as a package, and then the contractor gets those, and then the contractor will distribute that to the subcontractors. There are other drawings as well. There's something called, as a term that we often use, called shop drawings. Okay. Now, if I tell you the beam that connects that column and that column is whatever, let's say 7 feet 8 inches. If you actually bring it out 7 feet 8 inches, it might not fit. We want it to be to the nearest 16th of an inch accurate. Why? Because you can't stretch a steel beam on the job site, right? If it's a timber beam, I can cut it to whatever size I want. But if the steel beam, it needs to come to the nearest 16th of an inch accurate. Same thing with curtain walls, windows, doors. Everything needs to be 16th of an inch accurate. Well, doors and windows are standard shapes, so that's not a big deal. But all the structural steel that you see has to be detailed to a 16th of an inch accurate. Hence, they're called detailed drawings and also sometimes called as shop drawings, right? So more often than not, people recognize the term shop drawings. Anyway, those drawings are not included in the set that you typically carry around. Those are, again, it's an interesting way of doing things in that the mechanical engineer will draw the mechanical drawings, but the mechanical engineer is not the installer. There's a mechanical subcontractor who's the installer who will draw the mechanical shop drawings, and then the mechanical engineer will have to look at them, approve them before they actually get built, right? So that's the typical process. Anyway, so here's why Bluebeam became really popular, right? Over the last 15 years, maybe 20 years, what's changed in the industry is the popularity of guaranteed maximum price contracts, as in early contractor involvement, meaning the design is not fully finished when I start coming out of the ground. Why? Because the owner wants their project yesterday. right? That's pretty much every owner. They want their projects done fast, quick, and therefore the construction team and the architect will come together and then start producing these drawings. And then as soon as the foundation drawings are ready, we'll start coming out of the ground and let the design team do what they're doing, right? So what ends up happening is in the process of a project, you really couldn't print construction drawings because every 3 days there was an update to the drawings. Well, if you start printing full set of drawings every 3 days, it gets real expensive real fast. So instead, what's happening these days is everybody's walking around with their iPad on the job site and they have the drawings right there. And they're constantly updated because they access those drawings through a web portal. A lot of times you could say there are computer programs, we'll look at it in the fall, but there are computer programs like there's a program out there called Procore, there's a program out there called eBuilder, Autodesk Construction Cloud, Kahua, all sorts of programs out there. And these are called project control software, right? Project control software. As in we manage the actual project, all the documentation that happens on the project through that software. Well, that software houses drawings, and we access those drawings through a tool like Bluebeam, right? So that's what people typically use in the industry is Bluebeam. And Bluebeam is basically just like Adobe PDF Creator, if you would. However, or Adobe PDF Professional. However, it has built-in tools that are added on top of that, specifically made for construction, right? So I have an assignment today that we're going to go through. However, at the bottom of the assignment, you will see 2 files. Those are practice files that we're going to use in construction, in class. So there are about 10 pieces to the assignment. I'm going to do the first 5. We'll take a break. I'll let you work on that, and then we'll do the other 5. And then we'll finish working on that, hopefully by the end of class, right? All right, so go ahead and download those 2 at the bottom of the assignment. So if you go to assignments, Bluebeam, and download both of those files. And then from Bluebeam, open those. Again, they'd be in their downloads folder. Now, again, notice that the Bluebeam logo is not on those files. That means Bluebeam is not the default program to open that type of a file. Now, on these computers, I can't change it because it requires an administrator. But on your computers, you can change it, right? To where Bluebeam is the default option to open these files. So I'm going to open the architectural files. I'm going to open the structural files. So you should see 2 tabs at the top. Just to give you a little lay of the land, notice there are toolbars on the right-hand side, and there are different toolbars on the left-hand side. Now, on the left-hand side, depending on what you click, you'll see a different palette, okay? So in this case, it's the tool chest. I would call the tool chest. That's what's selected, but there are other tabs, notice, right? Depending on what you select, different things are showing up. All right. Everybody good with that so far? So we have 8 structural drawings, and then how many? We have 61 architectural drawings. Right? So the first step I'm going to do is combine the 2 into 1, right? Combine the 2 files into 1 file. Well, how do we do that? So let's say we want to do it, bring in the structural file into the architectural file. So here's how you'd go about doing that. You go to Document,
insert pages from document. Again, I'm doing this so you can follow along. So make sure both of those files are open. Document, insert, pages from document, right? What this is basically asking you to do is, hey, you want to insert pages from another document into this one? That's what this is asking you to do. Now, when I select yes, notice you'll see an option right here. And then I can say add open files. Notice the structure file is already open. The structural drawings are already open. So I'm going to say add open files. So that's the one. And then at the bottom, you can select where you want it to go. Do you want it to go after the architectural drawings or before the architectural drawings? In my case, I'm going to say after the last page. That means all the architectural drawings are over and then the structural drawings, right? So almost always when you open a set of drawings, the first set of type of drawings you're going to see are what? Generally civil drawings. As soon as the civil drawings are over, then you start seeing architectural drawings, then structure, and then the different disciplines, right? So now I'm going to go ahead and say okay to this. So here again, you could do before, after, or what have you. And then I'm going to say okay. So now if you scroll to the bottom, pages 62 through 69 are structural drawings. Just click on it and you'll notice the drawings at the bottom change. That make sense? Questions, anyone about that? All right. So here are architectural drawings. I'm going to go ahead and then save it, right? How do I know I need to save? Anytime you make some changes to this, and you can go ahead and close the structural drawings, but anytime you make some changes to it, the tab at the top will have an asterisk next to it. If it has an asterisk, that means you haven't saved it. You've made some changes and haven't saved it. All right. So now that I've saved it, what I would like to do is notice how the drawings each have a number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right. I want to make it to where, but every drawing, if you look at the bottom, right, every sheet has a number. It's every sheet in any construction set of drawings will have a number. This one says A0.00, right? That's the sheet number. And then the sheet title is cover sheet. What I would like for this drawing to say, instead of the number 1 on the left-hand side, I'd like for it to have a label which says the drawing name or the drawing number, and then the title of the drawing. And I want to do it for all the pages. I don't want to do one by one either. So I want to do it for all the pages. Well, here's how we might go about doing that. So while we're in here, notice there's the option to create page labels, right? And when you click on that, it says, hey, what do you want to create using, right now we don't have any bookmarks, but we'll go ahead and say, select page region. And then let's say I didn't want to do page 1. I just want to do all the other ones. Then you can select a custom range of what pages. But I don't want it for all pages, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it as all pages. And then select. It says, okay, go ahead and select the region that you want to use to pull the sheet number. So again, I want to go ahead and draw a box around it. And notice how I am going. Notice the blue box I drew on the screen. It's not touching the border and it's not touching the text below or above, because I don't want it to look at that region, because automatically what it does is it pulls that data. Okay, so I'm going to select that, and notice the preview, it says A0.00. And then I'm going to go into that selection, hit space dash space, and then add now the title. So add, and then I'm going to select all of these lines. So A0.00 dash cover sheet. That's how it shows up. Everybody see that? I'm gonna do it again, but let me go ahead and say okay to this and okay again, and then it creates page labels for all of them. And now notice instead of thumbnails, well, I guess we have to look at thumbnails, otherwise we'd have to look at bookmarks. But notice how every drawing now has a name, right? Every drawing now has a name. Now, we can also create bookmarks. What are bookmarks? Again, bookmarks are basically, you can consolidate things or you could create each, just like every page has a label, every page could also have a bookmark, okay? The term they used from sort of website design, if you would, basically comes from the same thing. So when you go to bookmarks, right now there are no bookmarks. I'm going to go ahead and say create bookmarks, not the plus sign, which is one at a time. If you hit the plus sign, then it'll create a bookmark only for this page. If I want bookmarks for all the pages, I'm going to go ahead and say create bookmarks right there. And then it says, hey, do you want to create it from the page region? No, I don't want to do that. I already have labels, so I'm going to use the labels to do that. Everybody with me? Do I need to slow down? All right. We'll go ahead and say okay to this page labels. And notice how all the pages have these labels. What happened? So let's undo that. Edit, undo. Let me go to the bookmarks or the page labels and undo the page labels. Let me redo the page labels. Watch me do this again. So I'm going to click on this page labels. Now that asterisk below is telling you that you're not doing it for one page, you're doing it for all the pages. Okay. So click on that. So from page region, select, and then I'm going to select this sheet number first. And then I'm going to come in here, hit a space, dash, space, because I want there to be a space, a dash, and then the title. Therefore, that's what I'm doing. And then I'm going to say add another region. And this time I'm going to select all of these lines so that it picks up whatever text is in there. Right? And then I'm going to say, okay. And now do this for all the pages. Say okay. And now it does it for all the pages. Right? So all pages now have a label. From these labels, I can also create bookmarks. And then again, that asterisk symbol where it says create bookmarks. Let's create bookmarks. And let's do that from the page labels. That way we don't have to go through the selection process again. And say, okay. I'm going to further segregate my bookmarks into architectural drawings and structural drawings. Separate them out. Right? So here's how, see, by the way, sometimes it doesn't bring it in correctly. So make sure and you read through the labels to see if there are any. So there are two ways of creating a PDF file from a construction drawing. First of all, those drawings come from a graphics program that is a CAD program. CAD is in computer-aided design, right? It's either a Revit file or an AutoCAD file or something of that nature, right? They could do it two ways. One, they could just print it and give a printed set to the designer, or they can print to PDF, right? When they print to PDF, then all this text becomes readable by the computer. But if I give you a printed set and you want to create a PDF out of that, now you got to go to a scanner and scan each page, and that makes a PDF. Well, the difference between the two PDF files, print to PDF has text that's recognizable, whereas a PDF that's scanned, it's not a text. It's not text anymore. The computer interprets it as an image, right? We call it a raster image, right? Which means that there is no text there. It's just a set of whatever drawing, if you would. So there are ways to, there's a there's a feature in Bluebeam to convert that image to text again, but it's not super accurate. Okay. All right. So our names came in correctly. So now I'm going to go ahead and create a bookmark, call it architectural drawings, right? So I'm going to hit that plus sign, add bookmark, and it says, hey, are you creating a bookmark, another bookmark for this page? No, I want to call it architectural drawings. And again, I'm going to create another one. What do you think I'm going to call that one? Structural drawings, architectural drawings, and structural drawings. Now, I'm going to hold S1.00, hold my shift key, select S6.01, meaning I've selected all of them. So select the first one, hold your shift key, select the last one, it picks everything in between. Now I'm going to drag it and drop it below the structural drawings. So now notice how the structural drawings become collapsible, right? I can open and close those as needed. Do the same thing for the architectural drawings and drag them and drop it below the architectural drawings. So now notice I can open and close these drawings, right? Right. So let's say I want to create, let me undo that. So let's delete that guy and do it again. So again, in order to create a bookmark, I'm going to call it add bookmark right here on the top. And it's going to ask me, what do you want to call it at the very bottom? It says, is this A9.10? That's because that's the sheet I'm on. No, that's not what I want to create. I want to create something called architectural drawings. I'll spell it right. And then I'm going to select all of these, right? And drag those underneath the architectural drawings. So notice how they become collapsible and expandable. So select the first one, hold the shift key, select the last one. And that will allow you to pick everything in between.
Once you selected all of them, what do you do?
Then I just dragged it underneath the architectural drawing bookmark. So that means that becomes. So imagine if you had, let's say I've got the drawings for the Gori Center, right? I can now then say, okay, architectural drawings, within that, I can now create first floor drawings, second floor drawings, third floor drawings, and then move the relevant drawings under each label, right? Now, here's the thing. Why do you need that? Well, this is a sample drawing, but what if I gave you the actual set for a commercial building which has, I don't know, about 1,200 pages? It'd be hard to navigate, right? So you want to get organized so that you can quickly get to different parts of the document, right? So, by the way, 1,200 documents is not that uncommon. So if you're looking at, let's say, the construction of the student rec center, right? At the peak of construction, now this is before there was Procore or anything like that. Everything was kept on paper. They had a room about this size, full of boxes, and there were nothing but drawings in that room. That's how we did document control. We don't do it that way anymore, but essentially that's what you're dealing with.
So you want to be organized in how you set up your drawings. You want all your drawings in one place. Because here's the thing. You're gonna then have not only these drawings, but also mechanical drawings, plumbing drawings, electrical drawings, low voltage, anything related to that drawings. And then you're gonna have shop drawings for each one of these. So for that reason, if you want to keep everything in one place, you want to be organized in this manner so that you can quickly get to different parts of the drawing. Right? Everybody good so far?
I'm still stuck on,
Bookmarks?
yeah.
Okay, go to bookmarks. Click on that middle one. There's a page that will just say okay. There you go. Yeah, well, you still don't have the short drawings. So it's document. Yeah.
Oh, it has. I'm gonna put the head system in the storage.
Everybody good so far? Yep. Go to your page later. Yeah. There's eight zeros, it's dash is a zero, and then dash is to the zero. Let's do that again, right? So from there, how do we do the left? Maybe a little bit. Right. So this will say X, that. Oh, no, we will put much more this space for dash. And it's a little more somewhere. And then now the select using. Sorry, still holding here. Oh, no. So those, so you say you guys can just go to the side. So yeah. I was talking about this. You know, when you go to the more questions or this city and work. Exactly. Just say, hey, I book, get bookmarks on page this. You got to go to the whole center of the into that. What about dark? Worse, you have to see that. Right, and then you can take two molded songs, it's just like a little drawings, like a one you write, something like that is not this one. Hold back. Work and then go to the top. Everybody good so far? All right, next step. So I am in roof plan, right? Notice, first of all, so I will open, go ahead and open up A 2.03 along with me. What are these called, by the way? What is that? There's a, first of all, perhaps I should maybe step back a second because you guys are, some of you may not be familiar with looking at construction drawings, right? So let me talk a little bit about construction drawings. First, we already established two things. Every drawing has a number and every drawing has a title, right? If you zoom into here, notice it says sheet title and then the sheet number. If it starts with the A, what do you think that drawing is? If it starts with the S, E, so on, right? M for mechanical, P for plumbing, and so on, right? Now, there's a little mark right here, right?
focus on where my mouse is right here, and let's zoom into that. Let me change my mouse a little bit. All right. So now you can follow my mouse a little better. So notice how you see this right here. What is that called? A section cut, okay? Which is basically saying, hey, go to section 3 on sheet A6.00 and I will show you what that wall is made of. That's what it's saying, okay? So let's go to section or that drawing A6.00 section 3. So 6.00 right there and section 3. Now when we zoom in, so basically that's what this wall is made of. By the way, the wheel, if you hold the wheel down, you are panning on the screen. If you use your wheel to move in and out, then basically you're zooming in and out. Does that make sense? So if you hold your wheel down, I can pan as in move from here to there. Now, obviously I can't read this the way it is shown on the screen, so I would need to zoom in. Right? So that's what this wall is made of, right? Going back to, what was that drawing we were at? 2.10? 2.03. Okay, let's go back to 2.03. But here's what I want to do. I don't want to go to each one of these drawings. I want it to automatically take me there. I want to click on it and I want it to take me to that page. Does that make sense? And we can make it do that by doing this. So again, go to batch, link, new. Batch, link, new, right? When we say okay to that, we're going to say, yeah, add open files, meaning the current file, right? There's only one file open, so I'm trying to do it for that one. Click on next. And then I'm going to say, hey, use the page label, right? And then in the settings, I'm going to say page label, but not everything. I don't want to look for A0.00 dash cover sheet. I only want the first bit, the A0.00, right? So I'm going to say, yeah, I want first from start, the first character to look for is space. So notice the preview. It is looking for the input I gave it is the page label, which has A0.00 dash cover sheet, but the term it's going to pull out is A0.00. Does that make sense to everybody? So we're going to say okay to that. And then we're going to say generate. When we say generate, it went and looked at every page and found all the different ones in there. Okay. If there's an exclamation mark, that means there are multiple entries or a few things are missing or whatever. It's confused. We'll look into that in a second. Click on link options and say, hey, I want to change the include appearance properties. I want to change the link to make it look like a link. So a yellow solid line width is 1, and case sensitive. Do we want case sensitive? Yeah, we do want case sensitive because only capital letters are, for the page labels. I want the whole word, right? I don't want to just take part of it, right? A 2.0, if there's a word out there that has all that in there, I don't want that. I just want to look for A 2.0, that's all. So the whole word. And then I'm going to say, okay. override existing, meaning if there's any links already, go ahead and overwrite them. So when I say okay to that and say run, yep. Let's see what happens here. We'll take a look at the structural drawings in a second. So there are 259 existing links. It deleted those and it created 980 hyperlinks. So when I say finish and close, notice what just happened now. The yellow is telling me, well, the yellow, it did do an outline, but it didn't really highlight that. So let me do that again. Go back to batch, link, new, and then add open files. Next. And then again, the settings are still there. So notice the search term, it will take out the anything after the space. And then link options, I'm going to say line width is solid. Okay, color. Is there a fill somewhere? Oh, instead of style is fill. There we go. Say okay and generate and then run. And now it should cover up that. Excuse me. So now notice, so it deleted all of them and recreated them, finish and close. So now when I click on this A7.01, it will take me to that page A7.01. Right? I think it was detail 4. So again, this is detail 4 on 7.01. So again, if there are any other details that it's okay, it did miss a few. Oh, it didn't actually. It didn't do it because it's the same page. Right? Question. So let's do this again, right? So let's edit, undo. Let me make sure and there are no bookmarks anywhere. Edit, undo. So notice the bookmarks are all gone. So I'm going to go to batch, link, new. And then add open files because this is the file I'm working on. Add open files. We'll go next. We'll use the page label. On the left-hand side, we'll use the page label. Under settings, I'll say first from start, use this. If there is a space, then that basically is telling you stop there. Okay, so just look at the drawing number and then say okay and hit generate. And it should find a bunch of them. And then link options, we will say yellow and style is fill. And we'll say okay. And then we'll hit run. It will delete all of them and redo the ones. And now you should be able to click on it and it takes you there. And it should also be highlighted. Yep, finish and close. So notice how all these are now highlighted. Let's go ahead and save. Okay. Leave this file open or even you can close it. But what I've talked about so far allows you to complete parts 1 through 5 of the assignment. Let's work on 1 through 5 and we'll come back in maybe 30, 40 minutes and do 6 through 10. All right. So we're in page A2.31. What I would like to do is I want to highlight all things of a certain kind. Let's say I want to highlight all the toilets in this floor plan. right? I want to highlight all the toilets, except I don't want to go through and manually highlight. I want Bluebeam to highlight those based on something called as a visual search, right? You can get to that point by coming to, well, you can just hit Control F on your keyboard and then it pulls up. Control F stands for what? Question.
It's for,
A 2.31?
Oh, yeah, down the right.
They should be in order. If they're not in order, you can move them around, right? Okay, so here's what I could do. I want to search for the toilets, right? All right, guys, let's do one thing at a time. So click on this icon where it says image search. Notice how it's showing you that little image. Now, if I want to search for text, I would type it in. But if I'm looking for a picture to search for, I'm going to click on that picture and then say, hey, zoom into that little toilet. And then I'm going to select that area. I'm going to Control F on your keyboard. Control F stands for find, right? So when I select that, it's going to say, oh, that's the rectangle, or I'm sorry, click on Get Rectangle and then select that. Get Rectangle and then select that. And it will pop up that rectangle right there, whatever was in that rectangle. And then I'm going to say the results, let's see. I'm going to say not the entire document, just this page. I don't want to do that for the entire document. I just want to do it for this page, right? And then I'm going to say search. And then it says, hey, I found a bunch of them. Notice the results are showing up at the bottom. I'm going to select them all by clicking on that little icon and then click on that option next to it and say highlight checked. Okay? Highlight checked. So now notice how it highlights all the toilets in that one floor plan. That makes sense? So when you are, now, here's the other thing I could do. I could make it count how many toilets I have in this room or in this floor plan. I can now go into that results and say, apply count measurement to checked, and then I'm going to select, let's say, the count measurement right there where it says fixtures, doors, windows, general measurements. I'm just going to say, yeah, use that one. Well, where did it go? Notice how now it has a check mark next to each one. You see that? It's not only highlighted, it now has a check mark. Okay, now notice on the bottom left-hand corner, there is this little icon. Well, just when you hover over that, notice how it changes. Pull that up. And then when you see the markups, notice these are all the markups. So there's some measurements already in this drawing. So there's 12 highlights, which is all the toilets. The count measurement, there's 10 of them it counted, right? Under comments, it says 10, meaning there are 10 toilets in this room. But there's nothing in here where I can say, hey, I want to call it a toilet. Right? So notice this is the markup list. So again, we'll get into that in a minute, a little bit more. But notice the count measurement I just did. The page label is A2.31. And it said 10. I only counted one thing in here, right? Where it says 10, what does that mean? It found 10 toilets. That's what it means. But I wanted to say toilets, but there's no place in here for me to add that. So maybe I'll add a column. Notice there's columns. So how do I get to it? Click on that markup list and there's columns. And if you scroll down, Is there a description? There is no description here. Well, I can manage columns and then I can say add my own column. I could just add my own column and name of it is description. Lily, question. Okay. Make sure they're all checked, they're selected, right? So if that little checkbox right there is not selected, it won't do it. Okay, I'll come down to take a look. So description, we'll say okay and say okay. So now there's a column called description. And then I can type in here and then I could say number of toilets. Sometimes you just have to save it, close the file. I would do. That was a lot of them. I don't know, I don't know what they hit. Yeah. Yeah, oh, it did. I bet there's a bunch of them in there. So go down there, not nice with you. So select a bunch of them. So first thing we want to do is. No, when you get the real. And then you sort of double tap it.
I don't think, I know. One of the additional. Yes. Yeah, and it's fine. Oh, I was right. So, on that. Say something. I don't know what's supposed to do. Just go over there. It's just fine. Sometimes just be outside of it. If you want to get it back in. And now when you put this up, it should when you go in here, make columns. Columns, you just make it column and one person. Everybody good so far? All right, let's move on. Now, in order to close these are all called book markups, right? So these markups, if you want to collapse them or close them or what have you, just go in here and then drag it down and you're back to where you started. Now, I'm going to go back to my bookmarks or thumbnails, and then let's go to drawing a 2.01 first floor. So there's a bunch of text in here and what have you. So these are all called markups, okay? Now, open your tool chest over here on the left-hand side, and you will notice that there's a whole bunch of tools up here that you could use for markup. If you're the contractor, these are the markups you would use. If you're the architect, these are the markups you would use. Now, Why is that important? In our case, it's not really. But there is something called as Bluebeam Studio. Bluebeam Studio. Bluebeam Studio is basically a server in the background, and the server houses all the drawings, and everybody has access to the drawings. So if I want to make a comment on a drawing, I'll make a comment using my yellow base highlighter tools. And then if the architect wants to go in and make a comment on my comment, they can use their tools. That way we can keep comments separate just visually. We know who did what, right? Now in our case, it doesn't matter. Because it doesn't matter, I'm going to use the ones on the right. So suppose I want to say this detail is unclear, right? So maybe let's go to this section A6.01, and then I say, well, what's the dimension on that thing right there? So I'm going to select this circle, this cloud, and then I'm going to say, let's highlight that. Well, that's just a cloud, but it doesn't allow me to put any text anywhere. Well, so delete it. And then you say, select that call out, and now it does the same thing. Well, sorry. Cloud with a call out. Where do we have that? Well, we don't have that. So, well, actually, we do have that. There it is. Cloud plus call out. And then I'm going to select this and then come in here, and it's asking me to type my question. And then I can say, what is it? What are its dimensions? Does that make sense? So if I want to highlight something, I can select that highlighter tool and then just highlight it like so. Notice that's the highlighter tool. If you want to freehand sketch something, you could use the pen, but again, it doesn't work quite as well. If I want to add a label, just a label as in a piece of text, I'm going to come in here. Question from GC. And then I'm going to select that and say, suppose I don't like red color, I want pink color on that. I can just select that text box, change the color right there. Well, I don't have anything in the background. What if I want to fill that text box with some background? Notice while that text box is selected. Well, I guess I don't want to, well, we could do it. We could select the fill color. We could select that blue. And now it's not readable. Well, maybe I'll make it a little less blue. So notice how I can change the transparency on that fill color, right? All of these right here, anytime you select a tool, you notice that this changes at the top. That's because each tool allows you to do something different. So this highlighter, I used a yellow highlighter. Let me change that to a purple highlighter. Well, that's too purple. Maybe I want to reduce the transparency on that to maybe 50%. Okay, but my point is, you can pretty much, as far as changing colors, doing different things to it, select a tool and you'll see the top change, right? So when I select this, notice how it changes. Well, my cloud looks like that cloud. If you want a dashed line instead, you could use one of those, but I'll leave it as a cloud for now. That makes sense to everybody? Suppose I made this comment and then I went and made another comment somewhere over here. I'm going to select this and say, can we get a 3D detail for this. And now I want to take all my markups. These are all my markups, right? I want to take my markups and put them in a separate sheet, right? So how do I do that? Well, here's how a way I could do that. I could go to Document, Insert, Blank Page. What kind of page I want to insert? I'll just use the 8.5 by 11. That's fine. Where do I want to insert? I want to insert after the last page. Right? I'm going to say, okay. So notice now I have a blank 8.5 by 11 page. Now let's go back to where we were. I believe it was A 1.2.01. So, or actually A 6 point, I think in one of my details, this is where I was, right? So I want to capture these and put them in my other sheet. Everybody good so far? And here's how I would capture that. I would go click on that little icon where it says snapshot. Snapshot is basically taking a snapshot, as in taking a picture. So click on that snapshot, and then I'm going to say, I want that. So now it basically made a copy, just it took a photo. Go to the last page and hit Control V. There's your snapshot. You can drag it down. And now if you want to add some text and say, we need to create an RFI for this. So again, what I'm saying is I'm going through the entire drawing. I find anything that's confusing to me, and then I'm going to say, we need to ask this question. What is the RFI? Request for information. An RFI has a few things associated with it. One, who originated it? Who started it? Two, who should answer the RFI? Right? Makes no sense to send an architectural detail to the mechanical engineer, right? So we're going to send it to the architect. So from, to, sent on, need reply by, meaning I'm asking you a question, I need a reply by whatever date. By the way, if you don't reply to that, guess what? And if I'm delayed because of you, now it's on you. It's your problem. Right? So that's why we want to create RFIs. So as wonderful as the construction industry is, it's a very litigious business. We take everything in writing from everybody. We document everything. Because, you know, something goes wrong, you don't want somebody to say it was your fault. So as much as possible, people, again, this is basically risk mitigation, right? We want to make sure and document everything, and you know, that's part of the ethos of the business, if you would. Now, I may put a title in here. I'm going to say notes for project team. Okay, but I don't want it to be so small, so let's make that bigger. Let's make that bigger. Let's move that guy around. Now save it. So here's the thing, when I click on this, I can still, you know, by the way, can I change the text in here? I cannot, because it is no longer editable because it's a picture. When you take a snapshot, it becomes a picture, right? But I can move these around. Well, what do I need to do to make sure that people can't move around my stuff once I put it in there? So we go to Document and then Flatten. I'm not going to flatten the whole document. I'm just going to flatten just this page to demonstrate. I'm going to say Current Page and then just say Flatten. Now what that does is now you cannot select these and move these around. Does that make sense? So now I can also unflatten. Right? Now, there is a way to secure this document to where people cannot unflatten. We're not going to go over that, but if you ever wanted to create a document where people could not, you can make sure that all they could do is see it on the screen. But it's still, people say, well, you could create a PDF where they can't do anything with it. Yeah, but they can take screenshots. You can't prevent that, right? So if somebody sends me something where I can't print it, I just take screenshots and print it anyway, right? Again, if it's necessary that I want to print it. If it's a contract and people don't want me to print it, I got a problem. I'm going to sign it. I want to have a copy of it, right? But sometimes they will set it to where you cannot print it. And if they do that, I'm going to make a screenshot and then put it somewhere just so I have a copy of it, right? All right. So let's flatten just that one page again. All right. Now, what if I wanted to take a picture from my computer? So here's the thing. In construction, there is a term that we use called punch list. Okay? Punch list is when let's say you're the contractor, you're about finished with your project, right? You're about finished with your project. Now, before you go to the owner and say, Mr. Owner, here are your keys, the owner will say, let's do a walkthrough. And the owner will come and say, that tile is dirty, that's kind of not cut correctly. Let's fix that. Okay? Well, in order for me to remember, I'll take a picture of it. And now I know what it looks like. So next time when I come back for the walkthrough, I better see that fixed. And then you can walk around and say, well, this carpet is not quite here. That whatever flashing is not right. Whatever may be the case, you take pictures of it. And then you make a list of all the things that need to be fixed. And that list is called a punch list. Okay? So suppose I've created these pictures and I want to bring in a punch list item and put it into that is a picture from the punch list and put it into my PDF here, right? So in order to do that, I'm going to click on that image and then let's go select an image. And then we can say, well, I want that image to be about that big. So you could bring in an external image and put it in here as well. Does that make sense? So you can bring in a picture, add it here, add comments, whatever else that you want. Question?
Could you link that to like a room?
Yes and no. You can hyperlink it, right? I can say right click on this, and then I can say, let's see here, properties, and then let me see if I can do it with a text. Yeah. So notice that icon right there, the image on the far right. Click on that and it'll say, which picture do you want to bring in? Oh my gosh. That's why we need to get our guy on that. I'll talk to him. So I should be able to hyperlink something. There's a number of ways of doing this, right? So notice there is something called hyperlinks. These are all the hyperlinks that are in our drawings already. So hyperlink, and then I'm going to select this area, right? I'm going to select that area, and then it says, what do you want to do? If you want it to go to a certain page, I'm going to say, in the architectural drawings, jump to page, let's say, I don't know, 24 or 5 or whatever, Or if you want to go to a place in the drawing or a space, or let's see, I thought we might be able to go to, we could create places and spaces and all that, but I'll just jump to a page for now. So let's say we want to jump to page 10. We'll say, okay. So now when I just hover over this, I click it, it takes me to that page. Does that make sense? That's how you could create a hyperlink on anything. You can, so now if you want to go to a certain place within a document, then you have to create something called as places. We're not doing that in this assignment, but you can create something called as places. Yeah, it is a possibility. Yeah. Most contractors wouldn't do that. They would just take you to the page and get on with it. The reason why they don't do that is because these drawings get updated all the time. If it gets updated, I don't want to have to go through and redo that again. All right. So now let's open drawing. In this drawing, let's go and open S 2.01. S 2.01. This right here, guys, is a thickened slab. What's a thickened slab? So a slab could be, let's say, 4 inches. A slab on grade could be 4 inches thick, let's say. But certain parts of the slab are going to be 8 inches because of what load we're going to put on it or whatever reason, right? That's called a thickened slab. Basically, the concrete is deeper than, the other parts of the slab. But what I want to do is I want to calculate how much area of thickened slab I have. Okay. Bluebeam is really good at counting stuff, whether it is counting area, counting length, counting perimeter, counting items like toilets or light fixtures or whatever it is. It is really good at counting stuff, which is very useful as a contractor. You find yourself counting things all the time on the job site. So if I want to quickly get an estimate of what is the area of that space, here's the steps I need to go through. First, click on that icon which says measurements on the left-hand side. So before we do anything, we need to give this drawing a scale. Now, if you look at any construction drawing at the very bottom, you will see a scale. It says 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. Does that make sense? 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. So here I'm going to select preset 1/8 of an inch equals 1 foot. Precision, let's go to 1/16 of an inch, which means it's very precise. The problem with doing that is your drawing is not as precise. What do you mean your drawing is not as precise? Well, let's see. Where's the middle of this line? Is it here? 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 Right? We don't know. For that reason, we often refer to these as raster images. Raster images, because I cannot click to a point. It's not a point. There's no point on that line where I know how thick that line is. So for that reason, I'll change the precision back to 1/4 inch. So now, if it's not accurate, why do we need it? Well, it's accurate within a percent, 1 or 2%. And that's probably all we need. We don't need it to be, we're not making cancer medicine here, right? So it's whatever is quick and dirty, that's what we're after, right? So let's zoom out and say, all right, let's calculate the area of this. We set the scale, and notice there's an option in here for, again, when I hover over this, you notice it says area. All right, let's click on that. And then I'm going to zoom in and notice how whoever developed this created these directly from AutoCAD. So I'm able to select the point, and then I'll go to the next, and notice how it's giving me that icon. you see the little blue icon behind that crossbar? And then I'll go to each of these corners. And then you got to finish where you started, right? And now it tells you, hey, there is, again, if I want to get out of this command, by the way, I'm still in that command. If I want to get out of the command, go to the bottom and select that pointer at the bottom. And now you're out of that command. So notice how it now says in the middle of that room, it is 1,371.37 square feet. Does that make sense? How many cubic yards of concrete is that if it's going to be a 6-inch slab? How do we calculate that? Times 6/12, first of all, because then we get the value in cubic feet. Because volume of concrete is cubic feet. Volume means cubic, right? So 1371.37, if it's a 6-inch slab, times 6/12, whatever number you get is in cubic feet. But when you call the concrete company, you have to order in cubic yards. So divide that number by 27, and you get however many cubic yards you need for that slab. Right? All right. Questions, anyone? Yeah, that's why I'm saying, but it's close enough though, right? So everybody got the same number, or you got a different number? And also notice you could change, if you want a hatch pattern in here, you can select that and change the pattern and do all that stuff. Let me show you how to count a couple of more things, right? So let's say I want to go back to my drawing. Let's go to one of the A drawings. So let's say I want to calculate how much volume is there in this conference room, given that, right? This conference room, I want to know the volume of the conference room because the conference room is 10 feet tall. Okay? It's 10 feet tall. I want to know how much volume is there in that, how many cubic feet of volume is in there. For whatever reason, I need to know that. So go back on that measure. Notice in the area, there should be a volume somewhere in here. And notice that's the volume. Select volume, and then first select the area. Well, we can change that. Preset, what was the scale on that? I think it's an 1/8. 1/8 inch equals foot. So once again, volume, and then selected the wrong one. Volume. Okay, preset 1/8 of an inch equals 1. Precision, apply scale. And right now it says 0 cubic feet. That's because the depth is 0 right now. Change the depth on the left-hand side to 10 feet. And hit enter. So now 4,614.29 cubic feet. Right? So you could measure angle, diameter, Poly length is basically if you want to measure a length, a continuous length, but it's not a straight line, then you can measure it using the poly length. The perimeter is that polygon cutout. Well, the poly length can be used for perimeter as well. All right, I think we have everything we need to know to do this assignment. And if you feel like you're drinking through the fire hose, we want you to. Because it's again, no, I don't mean it in as in it's a read out class or anything like that. All I'm saying is in a 15-month master's program, you got to be on your toes all the damn time. There is no time. You're constantly working. So there are a couple of people that said they're still full-time working. I don't know how long you can do that and do the program. Right? This is gonna keep you pretty busy. And this is pretty much gonna be the pace of a lot of classes that you're gonna take this summer. The summer is probably gonna be busier than fall and spring, but. All right, I'm gonna stick around for another 20 minutes or so. If you guys want to work on your assignment, I can see if I can help you. County. Okay, so there's an option in there for county. Select that. That was, and then click away, whatever you want to do.
I meant have like is that different?
Yeah. No, those should be wanted to. But let's say I wanted to count, let's say, or let's say this thing was found, so you just gotta say, there's the bottom left. How many days, so make sure you're each time you do that. Yeah. I got 55 million. So we intend for doing that, right?
Yeah, we just.
Like one with.
Yeah.
So we can do six.
And is it different for the housing? Or is it kind of the same thing?
It will count when you highlight, but not everything needs a highlighter. Like for instance, if I want to count a certain type of door. Or let's say if I want to say I have the east wing and the west wing all in the same drawing, and I only want to count the east wing, that program, that tool won't be able to help you. You have to manually.
So in other words, everything on the page with that. And then where's that option?
For search.
Yeah.
So that, or that is search.
And then you highlight it. Thank you.
Question.
Yeah.
There should be a goal statement.
And then.
So all the 3x7s you will count.
Just curious.
Oh, yeah, this is not paid, so.
I don't know. Yeah, there you go.
So if I go after this. I don't have jumped on to the. Did you finish it?
No. We haven't done
You get the idea.
The next. Yeah.
Well, if you're gonna do, go to page A11 and then select the goal. So go to page
We
A11.
already got. like,
That means the title. Yeah.
I have no idea. I'm just making up a number. I think it's about that. Because we have estimating. The structures. We need to get the structures.
Yeah, structures, building, dimension, it has a lab dimensions,
Yeah, that's structures.
and they have.
That's structure. I know we're doing. That's scheduling. And then they have something due next week for.
B0128.
Well, you don't like me.
You may have to use multiple. The. 3x7 goals. Upper size though. No, we had a past next week. I was out of your range.
What? Wait. Oh. It was something else. Yeah, I know about that. It's like where you factors. Textbook, that's like. You don't need to. For certain. Textbook, that's like.
But they're all in, you want to just like.
He provides it. He provides.
You look for it.
And then paper.
Sound.
Yeah.
Sound bass, that's wall roof.
Like.
So that's like, like, picture you're like. Pointing out stuff you want somebody to make sure. Artistically.
Like, like I totally.
Yeah, stuff like that. I don't think it matters, like. Five different.
Oh, I'm so good when I do it.
Yeah. Well, you gotta highlight the second.
My life.
You have either language, you just have to think about it.
It's hard, but I literally, I just was sitting there, I was like.
That one I sat here, I was not like.
You're all good, architect review or contractor?
It's just,
That's the only choice. And then when you're done with that, you are.
but he's got on my phone and.
What you do is like, you relocate to the couch and you can type in. 3 foot by 8'6" doors. Related.
I just, I can. So I got like a question.
I think it's,
My house.
I don't think it's, he was,
Sorry,
go ahead.
the horse.
The only question I had was, do you care if you have review tools here, the contract review? And then on the E2.2, it says A01. Better, sure, the lights are like, A201 straight, and then A201, you want just 201, you want the east.
Well,
Show me the.
How do you do that?
Oh, I got it. But.
yeah, just those.
So,
I was like.
No, just those, yeah.
My parents was like.
Okay.
Only those.
I got you, I didn't know if you wanted us to take these off.
Well, the EV doesn't matter, I'm looking for a visual search of that shape.
Especially like, I thought about it, even like, really like, email from survey, was like. If I was out for work here at 7, 8, and I still would go to class the next year. You could not. You could not
Well, but
doing anything.
no, look in the door
Is
schedule.
that what, next weekend?
So we
have
don't
like-
here.
So it's class on.
So door schedule,
A full work day.
so
28, and then we still have to.
I hear you, bud. Out there, it is contrast or oh my god. I'm gonna hang out here for a while. Yeah, we'll get it in. That's right. Well, I'm not even. So. Pick all the B, have it all, and then click all of them. Zero, zero, three, is a 3x7, right? So let's start a count measurements. For all the 3x7.
Example here. This is
Yeah. And once you're done with it, say finish.
It's not listed.
So whenever you're done with it, let's say, I'm just gonna show you demonstrate. So let's say I click on the type of finish. Then I'm gonna go, and now what it'll show me is that count measure. Yeah. And now when I start another one. Right? And I'm saying done with it. Now notice, there's another count measure. And then put all the labels correct.
Okay, then, but how do you know which one is that?
Everything has a label,
Okay, so like that's a separate.
but if you go in here, it will tell you what that is.
You're right, it's too.
Yes, you can, the time, every day. On the other side of it, is you're like, that's, again, it's condensed and wasn't like elongated. But I'm just like looking at it right now, just. Why did I do this? Oh, this one.
Do you want to see any specific markups for this page 1.4?
I think it's fun. I think
Or
it's
just
dropped
stop
off
file
after like June. And then we're done.
Any like specific ones?
That's fine. So it's really nice. When I have press, which I think. So it's really, really intense. Yes.
Stop the recording so that. Give me just a second.
That, it's like that plankton meme where it's like screaming. All these young kids can only take, and then like, yeah, break. Then we go.